Hey everyone, this is Corinne Lafont, your favorite radio host, your only radio host, and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean on Between the Lines. And you know, I always start my show off being grateful, or people say thankful, either one works. And I like to say thankful. It seems to be more positive, yeah? And today we're going to do things a little bit different. But before I go into that, my little spiel on thankfulness. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for seeing the beauty of the day, for impacting lives, for lessons that I've learned and still learning. And for those lives who impacted me, all those people, paths that I crossed today, I hope I have made a positive impact in their life, made them smile, made them laugh. Something that they will always remember and have treasured memories, and they have done the same for me, or I've learned a lesson, so I'm thankful for that. So today we're going to do things a little bit different. Normally when I do my show, my guests would show themselves on video. My guest today is going to remain anonymous for reasons that you will see as you or listen or watch as you go along. Based on the topic that we're talking about, her walk in and out of darkness. And what you're seeing on the screen is a book cover. I think she has an updated version, but I'm going to use the one that I have now. And then we're going to be showing you her trailer on her website. I'll switch over to her trailer in a short moment and go into the discussion. Yeah, so you're not going to be seeing her to protect her identity. And that's understandable, and I have to respect my guest wishes given their experience and situation. For whatever reason, you have to respect that. So things are going to be just a bit different today. So you wouldn't be seeing her, you'll be seeing her book cover and the video, and you'll be hearing her voice. Yes. The most important thing is not really to see her, is the information that she's going to share with you. That is important, correct? So let me tell you a bit about Honey Casper. Her name also is also to protect her identity. That's a pseudonym for a book that she's written, as you can see, done by Honey Casper here. Yeah, Unpredictable is really the title of the book, the main title, followed by the subtitle, The Walk in and Out of Darkness. So let me tell you a bit about her, and it's already written on the screen. She's using a pen name. She has overcome and survived much hardship, which she's going to share with us today. Through uplifting insights gained from overcoming her struggles with grace and faith in God, she shows that anyone can overcome and better their lives. Awesome topic. You know, this is something that we cannot finish in 30 minutes, and I'm sure we'll go over like I normally do on my show when it comes to these sort of topics. But we hope that you would leave with some value, some inspiration, be empowered to be able to take some action and know that there is hope. You know that there is hope, and once there's hope, and once there's breath flowing through your lungs, there is hope. Yes, don't give up. People have been through worse than you, whatever you may be going through, because we're all going through something. And the main thing about it is we are going through. We're not going and stop, we're going through. So continue going through it, learn your lessons, and I can promise you this, that you will be strong at the end. And so I want to welcome Honey Casper to Between the Lines. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me on, and that was lovely introduction.
Thank you. I do my best. So, Honey, and I like that, Honey. So I'm calling you with a nice term of endearment. Hey, Honey. So, Honey, we're talking about your walk in and out of darkness. And before we start doing that, I just want to switch over my screen now to let me see if I can do that quickly, to your trailer, just to give people just a little idea. Let me see if I can big up the screen here now and play that. right, so as you can see, let me just remove this one second, bring it here.
Mhm.
I want to get to your cover, so let me kind of, right,
Yeah.
right. So you can see the cover there. So it was already, as you mentioned, as we see there is 2018. So this, of course, is a past video trailer. So your book was already published last year.
Right.
How has it been so far? Sales, reviews, etc. I noticed some fabulous reviews on your website.
Yeah, we've had a few, and so far so good. I mean, I never thought of myself as becoming a book author, really. I tried to kind of record things, and the book took me like 20 years to write because I would write and make notes as I had like I have PTSD, so as I would have flashbacks, I would try to record them
Yeah.
in the book. But yeah.
That is something that I am working on, trying to just document. It comes to me. I had PTSD as well, and still having it, is something that doesn't really leave you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm, it's kind of hard to record those thoughts that fly through your mind and what you feel. But it's a very good thing I would suggest to anyone to have a journal and be consistent to document it. You just never know. It can turn into a fabulous story, a fabulous book, a fabulous movie.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have had people tell me that actually that have read it, that they think it's just shocking as the word that they use, and one person said that as they read it that they couldn't put it down, and they said all through the book I kept thinking, oh, this would make a terrific movie. So that's a good compliment.
Yes, no, you just never know, and especially when your story is as dynamic, and I can sense yours is dynamic. So walk us through, take us back along your journey. Why do you call it your walk in and out of darkness, though?
Well, a lot of information has come to me even as an adult. Came from a very broken home. I when I was born, my mother and siblings were living with her mother, my grandmother, and then I'm not sure how long they lived, or we lived with her, and then I've been told as an adult, though, that I was severely malnutritioned even before I was born, that my mother didn't take care of herself at all. And then somewhere along the lines, I was pretty much dropped off on that same grandmother's doorstep. And nobody knows the age, but they said that I was like one of those Ethiopian children with the swollen stomach. And so a lot of it's fragmented. So, and you can see in the cover, I painted the cover, and I feel very uplifted when I look at it because, in the beginning, I guess it was, kind of darkness because I was so ill even as a baby. And then when I started living with my grandmother, you can kind of see the flickers of light coming into the cover because she was that person for me, and she saved my life in so many different ways, much more than even just caring for me through, different health battles. But then also with taking me to church and teaching me there was a God, because at the age of 9, my biological mother, which I knew who she was, but I didn't see her very often, maybe once or twice a year. And she pretty much kidnapped me from the local school. And I was told as an adult that it was because it was when the taxes in America changed, where you would get more money at the end of the year for more kids that were in the house. So that was supposedly the reason that she took me. But she lived a very destructive life, from alcohol abuse to men to just really not caring for the children she had. So from living with my grandmother where, I had a meal, 3 times a day and didn't have to worry about food, and I had clothes, it was literally being thrown into the complete opposite extreme of no care, herself, she was her universe, and any man that was within that universe, but she really didn't try to be a mother. I don't understand why to this day, because I'm a mother and I can't imagine not putting my children first.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's a lot of darkness in the things that we survived through her because of her being absent
Mhm.
and her never putting us first, and being hungry, and so it was like I had this fragmented times throughout my life where literally starving and already have been malnutrition, and when we did eat, it certainly wasn't food that was good for your body. It was like sugar bread or bologna that you sliced yourself, and no natural milk. Like we had the powdered milk and um, sugar-based stuff, Nesquik, you know.
Mhm.
And so because of that and other things that even the doctors can't completely figure out, I've survived 81 surgeries now
Wow.
because of this past that was so complicated and because of the lack of care. So I lived with my grandmother, like I said, the better part of my formative years. But then when I started living with my biological mother, and I call her my biological mother because to me, my grandmother was my mother.
Mhm.
And I never felt that she even had the right to say that she was, what I'm saying? She was
Mhm.
never that person to me. And
Mhm.
um, I didn't really have, a father either. I think I met my father when I was around the age of 8 or 9.
Mhm.
And I might have a memory of him before that, but I'm not sure if it was him or not. But all I had was my grandmother.
Mhm.
So when I started living with my mother, um, she just wasn't there. She wasn't there. She would come home on Fridays and pack a bag, and she would disappear till Sunday or Monday. And that was before cell phones or, there was no way to get a hold of her.
Mhm.
And we had it pretty rough. But by the time I reached teen years, she started to include me in her sex games with her
Mhm.
boyfriend, I should say. And then that ended up, having me molested for years
Mhm.
after that. So he died. Well, I put in my book that he died when I was 15, but I was kind of looking into things again recently, and I found his obit online, and I was kind of surprised that he died. I believe I was 16 instead of the 15 I put in the book. But um, so he died of cancer, and she's never paid for any of her crimes or anything like that. And it was much more than just being a poor mother. I
Mhm.
mean, I believe she had something to do with the woman that raised me, my grandmother, which was her mother.
Mhm.
She had survived a terrible attack, and I believe it was her and that boyfriend that went in and tried to kill her. And I've recently discovered that it was because my grandmother found out what they were doing to me, and she was going to go after them. So they went in and they tried to kill her.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
was one of the worst crimes that the area where she lived had ever seen. I mean, it was a miracle she did live through it, but then she couldn't remember what had happened. So my actual brother, he went to prison for it. So they actually even let him. Yeah, it's really a lot of awful, awful
Mhm.
stuff. And also from the time that I was living with her, about the age of 9 to 17, when I got married at 17, we moved 25 times and went to 15 different schools.
Mhm.
So also it was a very secluded life, always getting up and leaving and always expecting that you're not going to be anywhere very long. And literally she'd make a call overnight and say, start packing. And I would, and the next day we would be gone. So we were really ghosts in the system too.
Mhm.
And we would move for all different reasons, from maybe somebody had called authorities on her for not being around, or feelings that they might have had, to if I spoke out. I mean, I tried running away many times, tried to get help many times, and
Mhm.
it just never went anywhere.
Mhm.
Um, so,
How old were you at that time?
which time?
No, during that time when you went with your mother and was moving around from place to place.
Oh, like I said, 9 to 17 years of age. Yeah.
And you said you're tempted, because I wanted to ask you if you tried to, what have you tried at that age, because you didn't
Yeah.
get the situation. What have you tried?
I had tried many times. I tried to, I think, I'm trying to remember the first time I went for help. I think the first time that I went for help was when I was younger, and actually I had visited my grandmother, and I tried to tell her, this was before I was a teenager, and I just tried to tell her even just about the absenteeism of my mother. I don't think I was being molested at that time, or I don't remember saying anything about that, but I remember telling my grandmother, how we didn't have food, how we didn't have this or that during a visit. And one of my cousins was there, and I remember her standing in the driveway when my mother found out, or my biological mother found out what I was saying, and my cousin just was yelling and screaming at me, saying, "Why are you saying this stuff?" And and I just stood there and I just like bawled, because I was telling the truth, but it was like no one else wanted to believe it, and she made it seem like it was all me. And I know that there was other times as well that I tried to reach out to different people, but the most significant one that I remember is when I was in middle school, and I had met a cousin of mine that was actually related to my father's side. And even though I didn't know my father, I guess I felt a little bit safer to tell them what was happening. And I did. I remember standing in the bathroom of the school and talking to her, and she said, "We've got to go to the guidance counselor." And I was like, I'll think about it. And so the next day I had decided to tell someone again. And I remember the night before I was thinking, like, I was thinking that I was ready to let go of ever knowing her, seeing her again, which was, a pretty big deal. I think I was like 13 years old, maybe, 14, maybe. I don't think I was that old. But I remember looking around my room and thinking, about if I should get anything ready, and I decided not to. And I remember worrying about my brothers, wondering where we would live. Maybe we could be together. And then the next day I did go to the guidance counselor with my cousin. She went with me. And I poured my heart out, and I told them all the things that were happening. And he listened. I could tell he was upset. And I was just so even detached, like emotionally, where, I had mechanisms for survival. That
you said you went to the guidance counselor with your cousin. Is that the same cousin that was saying to you?
No, a different one. Because that one was on my, the one that was yelling at me in the driveway, she was my maternal cousin, my first cousin on that side. And the other one was like a second or third cousin on my father's side. So,
what about your siblings? When you were with your mother, living with your biological mother, your siblings, brothers, other sisters,
brothers,
what was their role in all of this, or is it just something on you? Meaning,
no, of course not. Yeah, we were all suffering, and we all had our own roles. I was kind of like the mommy homemaker. If we did have food, I would make it, and I would do the cleaning and stuff. I would try to get all the good grades, so I was the good girl. And then my oldest brother, he had drug issues. And I actually found him almost dead before we had to call an ambulance, where he had mixed too much. And his role was the protector, or tried to be the protector. And then my middle brother, he really just was so silent. Like I felt like he just sat in a corner. I would try to like say, "Hey, do you want to play a board game? Do you want to do something?" But and later as an adult, he said that he felt like he was the invisible one, or he had alcohol issues as an adult, but he just very dark, like just so sad, like depressed, you know, like the lost child. And then the middle, or I'm sorry, the sibling closest to my age, he was abusive, and he used to beat the crap out of me, and she would use that. She taught him that. So if she would have a problem with me, she would say, go take care of your sister, and he would come in and he would punch me as hard as he could in the stomach, take me to the floor. And it could be just about anything, even if it, I mean, I remember times getting punched because I had made myself something to eat when we had something to eat. So it was like no rhyme or reason why you were going to get beaten. It was just you were going to get beaten. Mm-hmm. And she used him as that tool. So, and he acted out the most. He probably got maybe the poorest grades. I don't know. But none of us had it easy. It wasn't just me, but I can't speak for them because they were with her the whole time, except for my oldest brother who lived, I guess, with my father for a period. But they didn't have even the beginning I had, in the sense of the health challenges, one, but I had been going to church. My grandmother had taught me right from wrong and how to respect people, and that God was real, and they didn't have that. They were stuck in it much more longer than I was. So so I can't speak to them. I'm sure they have their own stories, but as adults we really can't be together. I mean, I tried as an adult, of course, but the brother closest to my age, he's on his third marriage and has kids with each one, and he was abusive, at least to the first two that I know of. And he tried to carry that abuse on to me in the adulthood, in front of my children. And it just came to the point where I said, no, I can't go back even for you. You can't do this to me anymore. I'm not a little girl. I'm a married woman and I have children, and you can't be acting this way in front of my kids. And I think he did try to change, the first time I talked to him about it. But then it happened again, and I wrote him a letter, and I just said, this really hurts me, blah, blah, blah. And he thought I was attacking him, and it was just letting him know that I wouldn't put up with it. And he just decided to never speak to me again. And
what I'm thinking now is that, because you've gone into the future, you've grown adults now, carrying on your own lives. How did you manage to be able to be living a healthy life, well, call it quote unquote sort of healthy life, and that you can get married, have kids, everybody? How did that transition take place? What happened to create that transition?
Well, it wasn't overnight. It was very hard. I mean, like I said, I was married at 17, and I even remember, right after we were married, the first argument we had, I went and hid in a closet, and my husband said, is this what you do? And I said, yes, I guess it is. And he said, you don't have to do that anymore. So that was one of the triggers to make me feel safe. And then as I got a little older, I mean, I even remember saying to him, do you think memories can kill you? And he said, well, if you let them. I guess it was just little triggers like that, where even other people would come up to me and they would say, oh, you're very emotional, and you can go from one emotion to the other, and like the fastest I've ever seen. So I wanted to better myself. I wanted to be better for my children, and I quit focusing on that pain. I quit focusing on my past, and I really threw myself completely into being a mother, and being a good mother, putting every need they had before my own and concentrating on their needs. And then I started to kind of volunteer and work with other people that had special needs and stuff in my community, which also helped me to also realize that I wasn't alone with feeling pain. Even if people hadn't been through everything I'd been through, pain is pain. And volunteering or focusing your energy on bettering or helping someone was also healing. And I've built a business now. I'm a business owner, and I've been very successful in my life, very successful, and that's one of the reasons I want to hide or protect my identity, because I am in the public eye, and people would know me for sure. I mean, I'm literally known all around the world. So I need to protect myself, because my biological mother's still alive. She never paid for any of her crimes. And she got away with everything.
So what did she do that was criminal that she has to pay for?
Well, obviously the neglect of her children, the molestation of myself, kind of the things she did with that man in front of me, and then letting him do to me. And then, of course, the attempted murder of her mother. So there was
who could bring her up? Who could bring her up for that? You at that point, or no? Could something be done about that now and then?
I've tried so many things, tried so many ways. And
you mean as an adult or as a child?
Yeah, as an adult.
But why would you want to do that? How can that help you? So let's say you've done that, and she's in jail. Now what? You would feel better. It will clear your conscience. What can it do?
Well, it's complicated, because I mean, I haven't sat and dwelt, but I do feel sorry for my grandmother, that if the things that I've learned even recently are true. I mean, I knew my grandmother did a lot for me, but she never got justice. I feel like I owe her a lot. I mean, and if I could get some kind of justice for her, I mean, I guess I've always kind of set my mind to the fact that I'm not going to, and that when I die, God will just take care of it, and there won't be any excuses then. But a lot's come out since the book has come out. There's been a lot of kind of moments of awakening, and other people talking to me about things that they witnessed and seen. So I guess I feel like it's more important just for my grandmother even than myself, even though I certainly understand my grandmother, because she never got justice. I never got justice. And
why take justice into your own hands? Like you said, God is going to deal with that. And if you mention that God took you out of this tragedy, you walked with him, your faith, then why take justice into your hands? That means to say that you're taking on his role when you really shouldn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I don't. I do believe that we have laws, that should be recognized. I don't think that people should get away with atrocities or things that they do to other people. So, and the law just didn't work in my case. Even when I asked for help, it never worked. So,
but that's man's law. God's law is a different thing.
Yes.
Nobody gets away from God's law, sweetie.
Yes, it's true.
Nobody gets away, and that's the highest and biggest law you could ever find.
It's true. It's true.
It doesn't matter what happened with man's law.
Yes.
God's law is supreme.
Yes, it's true. Yes, I believe that.
And everything is recorded. You may not see it. Everything is recorded, even for you, even for me.
Yep.
Because we are not without wrongdoings, whether it's in our thoughts, words, deeds, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
So nothing is above God's law. And it may not, the thing that happens is that we want things to happen within our time, and our timing. And
yes, and I know that.
Exactly, which is why you are probably saying you want justice for your grandmother, you want justice for you want justice, because it must happen within your lifetime on this earth. So you can see before you die and have a nice, easy death, and you can feel good. But it's not for you.
Yeah. It's hard. It's a constant struggle, because especially since I've written the book and new things come out, I wasn't even thinking about going after her when I wrote the book. I mean, I have nothing to do with her, and she tries to contact me from time to time, but I really separated myself from that life. I feel like I've lived 3 separate lives in a way, the innocent little girl.
We have lots of lives. We have lives in the past, and we have lives now on this earth, and we have many other lives after we leave this earth. So that's just what it is. But you see, we have to be careful while we are going through the physical pain on this earth, in this lifetime, in this form that we're in on earth. we have to be careful of the people do us things. Let's face it, we do people things, people do us things. But what we have to look at is a deeper issue. You know, whoever has hurt you, hurt people, hurt people.
Mm.
Hurt people, hurt people. Somebody of of a healthy mind, healthy heart, healthy soul should not and would not carry out that type of action on anyone else. So the
Right.
person must be hurt. They must have been, let's call, abused or have trauma in their past as a child, and this is all they know. So we have to
Yeah.
look at them. We have to look at them not only with our physical eyes, but with, if we are compassionate within ourselves, then we have to forgive them. And forgiving them is not for them. Doesn't excuse
Mm.
the wrongdoings that they have done. The forgiveness is for you. Like I was
Right.
to something recently, and Steve Harvey was talking about it, and he reminded me. He said he will never forget that, when he listened to Forgiveness by T.D. Jakes, and he said,
Mm.
forgiveness is really for you. It's like you're drinking, when you feel you're doing it for somebody, it's like you're drinking the poison and you're waiting for them to dead. If you don't forgive, you are drinking the poison, but you're waiting for the person to dead. So that's not forgiveness.
Mm.
You can't be drinking the poison and expecting them to die. It's you killing your own self if you don't forgive. Forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. It doesn't
Right.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they haven't done a wrong, but you have to let it go, and you have to say to yourself, because the more you hold on to that and you're seeking justice for this person, and as a matter of fact, you may be seeking justice for your grandmother and she's not even thinking about justice for herself.
Oh yeah, she's in heaven now. So,
Yeah, but
but
even if she was
yes, yes,
alive, even if she was
yes.
physically here, she may not be thinking that. But you are taking on, and when I say you, it's not necessarily meaning you in this instance. I'm
Mm.
talking generally, somebody who has been in a similar situation or maybe listening to us or will be listening to us and feel, I want justice for somebody. The
Mm.
person who you think is being hurt, like your grandmother in this instance, they may not be thinking that, but you taking that baton on behalf of somebody, and that person, it doesn't matter to the person. Why take on that responsibility on you? You must focus on you.
Yeah, and I do believe I do that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I believe that um, if she was alive now,
Mhm.
or when she was alive, she put herself on the line even to protect me, and it cost her everything.
That's fine.
So
She did that.
she also believed in getting justice for me. You
Mhm.
understand? So she wanted to get justice for me, and it cost her everything.
That's fine.
So when things come to me, since I've written the book, I mean, I feel a duty that even just if it's just making phone calls and asking people some questions. I mean, I've turned it over to someone else now,
Mhm.
but and I do feel like I had forgiven her a long time ago. I don't forget, but
No.
I also feel I don't need to have her in my life because she's not a good person. And I asked myself a long time ago that question, as if I didn't know her and she wasn't my biological mother, if I would be friends with her if I knew the things she had done.
Yes.
And the answer was immediate. It was no.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
so and it was pain. I mean, it's not an easy thing not to have anything to do with your mother. As a child, you automatically love
Of course.
a parent, and no matter what they do, that is always there, and that's on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
but but another thing you had said that about her past, and this is something I don't understand because I was raised by the same person that raised her.
Mhm.
And as far as I know, and I've talked to many people, there was no abuse.
Mhm.
Um, and everything that she did, she kind of did to herself. I know that the only thing that I do know is that she had asthma as a child, and her parents were afraid to correct her or for her to get too upset. So they were pretty lenient on correcting her because they thought if they spanked her or anything else, that she would have an asthma attack. So she got away with a lot from a very young age. And she also blamed her sister for some things that her sister would get in trouble for in her place. So, and I've even talked to people that knew her as children, that I knew as a child even, and as an adult. And they said she just always had this thing about her where she would hurt animals.
Mhm.
And she was just, there was something not there, something that wasn't right
Yeah.
about her, but there really wasn't abuse. I mean, most people do think of that. They think, well, people hurt because they've been hurt, but I don't see that in her case. It's just so bizarre. And same for myself. I mean, I'm very opposite from, you know, that little girl that was abused.
Mhm.
I feel like I've tried to reproduce my life, or line it up more from my how I lived as with my grandmother, and I tried to raise my children in as much of a normal environment as I could, and that I wanted, my husband's family were very important, and I knew all of their grandparents, stuff like that. So they lived a very normal life, but I worked at that to make sure it stayed that way.
Yeah. Something that you said though, that you poured everything into your kids because of course of your past and what you want to give them. And that is something that I want people to also be careful of, that because of the past that you may have had, which may not have been good for you, you pour everything into your kids and forget yourself, because you said at the sacrifice of your own needs, in your words. It's not good to do that. You have to have a balance. Your children are going to look at you as the example. They want to see, a healthy mom or a healthy dad or healthy parents, so they want, because you're the first, parents are the first role models for children.
Right.
So you want to be able to point to yourself and they see that you're doing things for you to develop you. So it's one thing to say you're pouring everything into your kids, everything for them, giving them everything, doing it, showering them, being there, and forgetting yourself. They see that, and that's really not very healthy, for you or for them.
Well, I think that I can see your point with that, but I do think it was a saving grace for me, because it did help me heal by loving them and giving them, the things that they needed. And then again, building a business. I don't even know if I would say I built my business for me. It was definitely a passion, but again, it was about helping people. And but I feel that helping people is healing.
Yes, it is.
But I mean, I have a few things that I guess I do just for myself, but I didn't have that luxury as a young mother. I mean, when I married my husband, I'd had 10 surgeries by the age 17.
Wow.
And I've had, 71 in the last 30 years since we've been married.
Wow.
So I've been very ill. I averaged, 2 to 3 surgeries a year. And that's been very hard. So I didn't have some of the opportunities maybe that others would have, because I had to focus on my children. Then there was this health battle. Then I'm building a business. Until about 5-6 years ago, I started to take a painting class. And I think that was probably one of the first things I've done just for me, that it wasn't for anyone else but me. And then, of course, studying the Bible and that kind of thing was for me. But and as an abused child, you don't get to finish things, especially with the moving. I mean, I've explored a lot of things. I mean, I didn't know that I could paint. I didn't know that I could write poetry.
Yeah,
I didn't know a lot of stuff about myself until even after my kids graduated high school, because I'd never focused on myself or finishing. It's very important for me to finish things now. I mean, I'm like, I hold on to things very tightly.
Yes.
And I try to explore my world that's around me, because that was taken from me, to be able to do that.
What would you say to somebody listening to this and may have gone through a similar scenario, or different, it doesn't matter what the scenario may be, let's call it challenges, trauma, bad home, broken home, just challenges. So just give us about 3 tips that you would give to someone.
I would say, if you're living in it or even have survived it, that look around you. Because I always noticed the good that was around me, which I guess is a pretty rare thing for someone living through trauma or even after trauma, is I looked around me and I could recognize the people that were good. And even if that good is only even in your own children, that good can pull you out of the darkness, and help you to be a better person. I mean, I say, navigate towards the light, and just kind of let go as much as you can. You're never going to forget completely, ever, but you can. I surround myself with positive people. There's no like damaging people in my life. I'm very careful about that, and just to be honest, to talk about things. I mean, I think that people misunderstand when you're talking about things like, I've written this book, and people might think, well, you're rehashing, or you're trying to do something that, maybe you should leave alone. But it's not about that. When you're a victim, you feel like you have no voice. And I'm trying to reclaim my voice in my life by telling my story. Even people that are suicidal or whatever, I've survived. I know that they can survive if they focus on the light.
That's right.
Surround themselves with good people. And I know it's hard. I mean, the hardest decision I ever made in my life was to say I couldn't be part of my siblings' lives and my biological mother's. But I know I've made the right decision because I stopped the abuse for my children. I stopped the abuse in my line.
You put boundaries. You set strict boundaries. You have to protect yourself. What are 2 other tips that you would share?
Other tips, you say?
Yeah, you shared one. So
again, I mean, for me personally, my faith in God has been my saving grace, and I know that some people might not believe in God, and
fine.
And that's fine. That is fine. But for me, it was ingrained in me from my grandmother, and I remember, praying even when I was in that environment, and I felt that was the only time I didn't feel alone. And to me, it was a very real experience to have that connection. So, to me, I have to say that because I have felt it, and that's been life changing. So, to seek the Lord is another thing, and then making sure that they don't fall into the trap of finding someone else in their adult life that's going to be abusive. Like, I've noticed that a lot, that it's like if they're abused, like you were saying earlier, people hurt and they hurt. Yeah. So just be careful. I mean, if someone physically harms someone that they say that they love, and then they swear up and down they're never going to do it again, chances are there's a problem. So just get out of it.
You don't need to go to university to figure that out.
Yeah, but a lot of people, they just keep believing, or they want somebody to love them so badly that they'll take it.
Yeah, because it's a self-worth. They don't love themselves enough, and they are needy, so they're coming from a desperate position. And so because they need the love of this person to complete them, they're dependent on that. They will take it because they're like, oh, I deserve to get this because I really did this to deserve that. They start to even validate the person, beating them, breaking their bones, denting their lungs.
Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is.
A concussion, they're out for how many minutes and they can't remember anything, they black out. It's totally ridiculous.
And then if you marry someone that's like that and you have children, usually the children get abused, and then you have another generation of
You have to put a stop to it. And like you said, I mean, not loving your mother or not connecting with your mother or being with your communicating, whatever it may be, your siblings, if you have to cut them off, you cut them off. Because just like you rightly said, if when you remove the emotive aspect of it, and you remove the bloodline that you're biologically related. If it was somebody else, you would cut them off long time.
Yeah.
So you just need to separate things in black and white. Separate it, and you make the best decision. Remove the emotions, and you will make the best decision for you.
Yeah, and you don't have to, if you forgive them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be in your life. I
No,
mean,
no, no,
yeah. And a
absolutely.
lot of people, a lot
No,
of people
no, no.
misunderstand that.
No
And they,
forgiveness. No, forgiveness is for you. It doesn't
yeah,
mean that you forgive them, that just you suddenly start kissy, kissy, huggy, huggy, you know, every
yeah.
Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatever birthdays you're celebrating. Like, no, 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 no. You still
Yeah,
set the
right.
boundaries, but you forgive them from a distance. You
Mhm.
you can love them even from a distance. You know, you can have no communication. That's fine. You have done
Mhm.
your forgiveness. The forgiveness is really to let go for you so that you can grow, you can develop, you can move on with your life. You know?
Yeah, another interesting point that I never thought of, until I see a counselor every once in a while, and she was helping me to, what was I going to say? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um, Another thing was I always felt that if the people that are around me, like when I was younger and after I was first married, like my husband knew everything that happened before we got married. And I always felt like it was my duty to share every little bit about myself with anybody that was going to become substantial in my life, because they had to know kind of what, in my mind, what they were kind of getting into, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, but um, that has very much went away as an adult.
Yeah.
Where, I don't, she actually asked me because I had to rebuild all family relationships. I mean, I had a family when I lived with my grandmother, but I didn't when I lived with my biological mother, other than just, who lived in the house. So I had to rebuild relationships, with aunts and uncles and cousins and everything. And I always would try to tell them, and the person that I see, she said, well, what kind of relationship do you want, and why do you feel the need to do that? And it made me really look at that and think, oh wow, I never thought about doing that wasn't a necessity. I mean, even though those things happened to me back then, it doesn't mean that I have to be scarred for life, in the sense of reliving it for every person that I meet.
Yes, it is true. It is
Yeah.
absolutely true. And there's nothing wrong. And it doesn't mean that you're keeping it in and not dealing with it. It's just that
Mhm.
you don't have to relive it. Every time you let it go, you let it go. It
Yeah.
doesn't, you don't forget, but you have to release. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that
That was a big lesson for me, and I think that would be a lesson for anybody that's
I
listening.
think
Is you
it's
don't owe anybody an
you
explanation.
don't owe anybody shit. You
Yeah.
don't owe any, you don't owe
Right.
anybody shit. You don't have to justify anything. Even if somebody hears something and they come
Mhm.
to you and say, "Oh, I heard so and so, honey," you don't have to answer. Say, "Well, okay, that's what you heard." Full stop.
Mhm.
You don't have to
Yeah.
explain, justify,
Yep.
clarify,
Yep.
whatever else the other words are. You don't have to do shit.
Yep. I mean, there's a flip of a coin there also, because if somebody does ask me something about the past, I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to be very honest, but I no longer feel the need to tell my story from the beginning to
No.
every person I meet. And see, but that's all part of the growth.
Yeah, yeah,
I just didn't know it as a young girl.
yeah. No, but let me tell you, to round off the interview, let me tell you, things come in the stages it's supposed to come. You
Mm,
didn't know then because you weren't supposed to know it then. You
right.
know it now. And there are things that you don't know now that will be revealed to you in the next 5, 10, or how many years, or by tomorrow. We don't know. But it will
Right.
be revealed to you at the time it's supposed to be revealed to you, because just like when they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So the lesson is going to appear,
Mm,
what you're supposed to learn at the time you're supposed to learn it. It never
right.
happens. It never
Yep.
happens at the time you're not supposed to. So you just have to be
Yeah.
patient and wait and trust, just like what you did. And
Yep.
oh my goodness, this has been good. I mean, we have gone over time. It's been a lovely conversation. And even though I didn't see you, you didn't see me. That's fine. People saw your book and we were able to show that. So I want people to grab a copy of your book. Because we don't know. Probably one line, one sentence, one word can give somebody an inspiration. Hope, faith, perseverance to go on another day, because you don't know what people may be thinking in their minds.
Mhm.
you know, those tips that you shared, I'm sure are significant to persons who are listening or those who will be listening at any point in time. So I want to thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here and for sharing your story, as painful as it may be. And I know a lot was left out. We can't
Mhm.
do everything, you know, your
Yep.
whole time in this. But
Right.
yeah, but whatever it is, you know, I hope and pray that, you know, as you go along, you know, your kids, your family, you know, whoever it may be, your new friends, your new network, you
Hmm.
have a new life. You have a new life, a new journey, and that's what it is about. The beauty is in starting over as many times as necessary,
Hmm.
because you begin a new you. You become a better version of you, and each time you become stronger. You're a stronger person. Yeah. So I thank you so much for being on the
Thank you.
lines.
Thank you.